Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, chunishumme, washmale, ohaya gonzaimas, guten morgen, hola, boyor, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, swabia, balli kare aaye, hosh galdin, anayo asayo, Huya Mora, and thank you very much everybody for tuning into PTV World. You're certainly watching World this morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Haja Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody's doing wonderfully well out there and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. It's a very rainy morning over here in Islamabad and the weather is starting to get a little cold. Haja, how are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for introducing me, Shahzad. So Shahzad was away for quite some while, and I think when he came back to PTV, everyone is asking me. So I think he's the reason behind Pakistan's loss. But again, it's a game. I mean, one team will lose, one will win. It's designed that way, right?
I mean, it's not that. I think that we could
okay,
have...
so are you really the reason behind their loss?
Well, obviously, I'm not. I'm the reason they made it to the final. I think that's how I want to look at it. And to be very honest, for the last 1 month, wherever I've been, for example, if it was a gym, if I stopped over at a shop, everybody kept on asking me, sir, is Pakistan team going to make it to the semi-final? I'm like, yeah, okay, inshallah, it will make it to the semi-final. How, sir? I was like, Netherlands going to defeat South Africa. And it did happen. And then one day, this gentleman at my gym, he came up to me and he was like, he started kissing on my hands. I was like, what happened? He was like, you were the one who said Netherlands going to defeat South Africa. And I was like, then? And then he was like, yeah, we couldn't have even thought about it. But to be very honest, I think on a very serious note, for Pakistan team to make it to the final and that too in Australia is something which is quite an achievement. Unfortunately, we were not able to kind of take that silverware for us, for Pakistan, but obviously England definitely did deserve it 100%. But other than that, Haja, how have you been?
Alhamdulillah, it's been going well, but obviously I think the set misses your energy, and I think you got that sort of a welcome, right, Shahzad? So I think we should move on to our top story.
Really, already? I just got back and you all of a sudden you want to move on to the top stories. I wanted to talk a little,
Okay.
How's been everybody, how are things? How are you people, for all our audiences who are out there? How have you been? Fantastic? Well, that's great.
Alhamdulillah, everything has been, I think, great, and Allah has been kind enough. Again, can we move on to the top story?
Yeah, sure, why not? Let's move on towards the top stories. Let's see what's happening. It has been raining over here in Islamabad, and I think that the weather is going to get colder.
Okay. So, Minister for Climate Change, Sherry Rahman, has urged the international community to take practical steps to save the world from the negative impacts of the climate change. Shahzad, so this conference is going on about the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, and Pakistan has been represented there by a Prime Minister, which represents our state's the topmost seriousness at this level, and especially Shehbaz Sharif has been given the vice presidency in this Sharm el-Sheikh conference, which speaks the volume about how Pakistan is very vulnerable to the climate-induced calamities, and we have seen how the floods have been rolled out, and before floods there were gloves, there were so many wildfire, forest fires, which were not a very normal thing in our country, but now it is. So, Sherry Rahman also mentioned that 33 million people have suffered in Pakistan from the recent and devastating floods, of course, in the country's history due to climate change, and said the world must think that the catastrophe happened in Pakistan may adversely hit other parts of the world if necessary and timely steps are not taken. And you know what, Shahzad, the Pakistan's pavilion in the Sharm el-Sheikh is the most busiest one, and I think it has sort of induced a lot of engagement because of the fact that Pakistan is one of the most vulnerable country when it comes to the climate change. And also, Shahzad, matter of the fact is that I don't see the level of seriousness, because if you see the fossil fuel emissions are going up, they're not coming down, and they're one of the reasons because of that the planet is more hotter and drier.
Exactly, and it's the need of the hour. I think everybody needs to raise their voices against that as well, because we happen to be one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change.
Right.
And if you're not going to do it now, I think for our future generations, Pakistan might not even probably, have that environment where we could live, the way that we have lived, the way we have cherished our memories too as well, throughout the lifetime. But now, in addition to that, obviously, talking about how, it's going to be winters, everybody's kind of trying to get their heaters out, all cleaned up, if they get any sort of gas at their places as well. I think that's another dilemma. But moving on towards the weather update, ladies and gentlemen, plan accordingly. because it's going to be colder this week. So rain, thunderstorm with snow over the hills is expected in Upper Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Islamabad, Upper Punjab, Gilgit-Baltistan and Kashmir during the next 12 hours. However, dry weather is expected in other parts of the country. Temperatures of some major cities recorded this morning: Islamabad 12 degrees centigrade, Lahore 16, Karachi 25, still a little hotter, Peshawar 13, Quetta 9, Gilgit 7, Murree 3 degrees centigrade and Muzaffarabad 10 centigrades. I think it's going to be colder, and for everybody who's out there, even though that it's going to snow this week around, please make sure that you do not kind of start to move towards hilly places, because we do need to remember what happened. It was a catastrophe last year where people were stranded within the snow, and not just that, they had those car engines turned on, and unfortunately lost a lot of people actually lost their lives too as well. So please be very careful, because before that day, Hajra, I never knew that, God forbid, this can happen. God forbid, if you are stranded in snow and you keep your engines on. So please make sure, be careful, wear warm clothes, do not use a lot of gas heaters in your rooms, and do not just turn them on and sleep, because unfortunately it can be disastrous.
And make sure there's enough ventilation so that there's oxygen around, right?
Yeah.
What happens is that we are consuming a lot of oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide, and that creates catastrophe like the one that we have seen last year.
Exactly.
So today is World Diabetes Day, Shehzad, and we've seen that it's a problem that is on the rise. So basically there was an assumption that people over 40 were getting that, but it's not like that, right?
Exactly.
Right. But then again, we're going to talk about it more but in the second segment. But before that, I think, Shehzad, so you have did MBA, right?
Yeah.
You're an MBA student.
Alhamdulillah.
And when you ventured into the practical field, the professional field, so what sort of changes did you witness around? Especially, did you felt that your university has prepared you enough to enter into the market force? What were some of the discrepancies that you saw? The smile says it all.
I think that the university I went to, it was Air University. It was a good university, so they really did a lot of homework on, how we really need to dress up, our presentation skills, how, when we go out in the market, how do we really need to deal with all our other colleagues or the other stakeholders. I think that's something which has always helped me. So imagine from the very first semester, when I started my bachelor's, till the time I got done with my master's, there was almost every day you were standing in front of a class of 50 or 100 people presenting, your cases, and then giving presentations and making sure that everybody understood. And even then, I still remember that there were students, who couldn't really do quite well. But then eventually, with that passage of time, with that personality development, they did kind of give us that confidence which was required. We might not be very good at suiting and everything, but we had that confidence. Now when we talk about in terms of education, I think that the problem is what the academia needs to do is that we need to bridge that gap in between the industry and the academia, and that gap, I think, it has widened up, for universities like LUMS, IBA and all of these amazing institutes. What they do is that they get all of those people, to come, have job fairs, and then, they are being hired even while they haven't really passed their degree or they have gotten their degree. So imagine just before you've graduated, you already have a job. So that's the kind of a system or inclusive environment we require for our students, and that's something which will prepare us for future. Now imagine every time in a newspaper, whenever we see a job ad, they would always be like, we need 5 years experience, we need 10 years experience. Nobody will ever ask you that, oh, are you a fresh graduate? Why don't you join us? So that's something which to me is a problem. And over here in Pakistan, we've been learning a job. I think that's one thing that we've been within that process. And there's no conducive learning according to what I was educated about or what I was given the education for. So I think that's something very important.
That's very true, and I think one thing that was for sure back not there when I was studying there was the how much we are glued to the social media. So for example, Instagram was not there when I was in my university days. And
that old?
Yeah. Okay. I think I should introduce the guest.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's okay. So I think without any further ado, we would like to introduce our guest, and we would like to furthermore elaborate on this concept. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Muhammad Adnan, who is a motivational speaker. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Thank you so much, Adnan bhai, for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. And because you happen to be a motivational speaker, so I would actually allow you to defend yourself in the first 1 or 2 minutes and then move on with the topic. So now people these days, they say that these motivational speakers, they come up, they have some amazing words to their vocabulary. They will throw them onto you and then be like, hey, you know what, this is what you're supposed to do. And it is easier said than done. How as a motivational speaker have you motivated your own self in the first place? Do you think that all of what you share with people was because of the education you got?
Yes, thank you so much, Azad. I actually agree with you that most of the people think that the motivational speakers, it give you a motivation. You just charge up and you think that I will, break the bull and I will move on, and there is a lot of opportunities for myself. Yes, that's right. But there is a problem in ourselves. Our motivational speakers take stories from Western world.
Yes.
We have a different environment in Pakistan. We have a different environment in the Europe and the Western countries as well. So they have lots of opportunities provided to them. Like if I say that I want to become a Prime Minister of Pakistan, people laugh at me. What are you saying there? Okay. Isn't possible? Are you mad? But if I say that in USA, he will say, oh, you can be. If we have an example of Barack Obama, who was a teacher in 1996 and decided that I want to be a president of USA. And in 2008, he became the president of USA. But what if I say in Pakistan, I motivate my students,
they will
people.
Ask you whether you were born in a political family or not.
Yes, that's the reason.
Or if your father or your mother was a political leader.
So our motivational speaker need to think about the reality about the Pakistan environment and the Western environment. They just gave the examples. They motivate with the examples of the Western world. They do not think what's happening in Pakistan. True. What are the ground realities when our students, when our people move into the practical life and move into their field. They say, oh, there are lots of difficulties. Our culture doesn't allow. Our environment is not supportive. So how can we be motivated till long to be in the Western world?
And that's a very valid point, which is why there's something, Haja, which I've always been thinking about, and that is that now when we talk about how to prepare our students for their professional life, there's one more thing, and that is that once you've graduated, or even if you have got your postgraduate degree as well, what happens is that whatever job you get, you will take it. That's the problem over here. For the people, I think now the world actually revolves.
Why is it a problem?
It's a problem because now the world revolves around people who specialized skill based. So for example, if I'm a marketeer, I've learned about marketing. How can I even go into engineering, right? That's something which I will not even understand. But if I have a source, and I can get a job, land somewhere, I will do that. And then hands-on learning will be while I am actually working for any institution.
Don't you think, Shahzad, that would also broaden your horizons, considering the fact that you were an MBA, you were a business student, but you ventured into the entertainment industry, right?
That's fine. With entertainment, it's fine. With entertainment, it's fine because with entertainment, you do not need a degree, right? With entertainment, you need to be entertaining to people. And that's something which the people will decide, na? So what happens is that, for example, if that engineering graduate didn't got that job,
so what if
which
a doctor is also a host, a morning show?
Fine.
Right?
We have an example. Dr. Shaista Lodhi was an example.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that also allows you to explore your groove, right?
Yes, obviously, but the point over here is that for people, what they have learned, in the previous 6 years or 4 years of their education, they do not practice that. That's something. Why did you even got into that degree which you weren't really planning on to working for? So that's something which has been a problem. Would you recommend that? It's a dialogue we are having. Do you think that whatever job you get, you should take it?
No, you must prepare yourself. Okay. Like if I've delivered training to youth from the university students, and my first question is, where do you see yourself after 5 years? And
I think that's the most difficult question.
They say we didn't even think about this semester, and you're talking about 5 semesters. I give another example. I was in CSS Academy, Lahore, and I was delivering students training. And I met a girl, and she told me that I have done a medical. I was doing my house job. After doing 5 years, so now I decided to do CSS, and then we'll go in the foreign services. And if I'm not settled in the foreign services, I will go another field. So imagine a girl who spent 5 years in the medical field and now move into CSS and become a civil servant of Pakistan, and then move on to another field. So they are not really prepared for their future as well. They are not, sound for their profession. So you must have one profession in your mind. You must, if you are a business student, you must think about a business world. You don't think about that I will change in the next field as well.
All right, one more thing. Do you think that a degree is always important to be in a professional setup?
Degree is a part of a profession.
Okay.
Like you need
Thank
a
you for
certain
saying that.
knowledge. For become a manager in any company, you must be an MBA. That's the pre-requirement for
I
that.
think that's mostly for the Pakistani societies, because I think in abroad they do not prefer going
Yeah.
into universities. If you have pension for that, you should go for that. But if you don't, after the high schools, they're just into the job market.
That's true,
right?
that's true.
So walk us through the importance of your maintaining a good digital platform or footprint, because nowadays your digital footprint is your CV, right?
True, it
Shahzad?
is, it is.
Lot of employers are, going through your Twitter or whatever LinkedIn accounts to see, how you are behaving. So what is your advice to the young
My
people?
advice for students is to be on the LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the world's biggest professional network right now.
Yeah.
So if you are on LinkedIn,
Right.
you are in the market. If you are not on the LinkedIn, you are not in the market. Imagine 97% employers are on LinkedIn. And they advertise jobs in the LinkedIn. They search profiles in the LinkedIn, and they offer directly job on LinkedIn. So you
Right.
have to update your profile, your resume on LinkedIn. You must update your skills, your knowledge, your experience, and keep updating yourself on LinkedIn. Once you are on LinkedIn, you are in the job market. If you are not on LinkedIn, you are nowhere in the world.
Exactly. So let's sort it out as well. For somebody who's actually a newbie, they're getting into that professional field and they want to kind of do something in their lives. How do you think that really need to set up their LinkedIn? Do you think that there really needs to be a few fake updates too as well? Or
No, not like
do you
that.
think they will work?
No, like that. Like you can, if I say that I'm good at problem solving,
Yeah.
like most of the students, they have some problems in their studies, their life as well. So they can handle some problems as well. So they can write that I have a problem solving skill as well.
Yeah.
And their friends, endorsements and recommendations are very important in LinkedIn. So if I endorse about Shahzad, that Shahzad is good an anchor person, so that will give an endorsement. And an employer always look for the endorsements and recommendations as
Just
well.
like, while ordering, we look for 5-star ratings as well. I think
Yes,
that's how it is.
So endorsements and recommendations are very important. So I have a problem solving skill, I have a pressure handling skills, I have a good presentation skills. So my friends, my colleagues are endorsing that skill. So that will really important to put on the LinkedIn, and the employer will look at those endorsements and they will consider you as well.
Okay, and that's one bit now. For example, if you're not on LinkedIn, you're looking for job, how do you think that the people really need to progress? And I obviously have heard about it as well, and I've done multiple shows on this, that, the CV writing is actually an art too as well. So how do you think that people really need to bring out their CVs?
Yes.
What sort of mistakes do people make usually?
Actually, I advise my students to separate CVs for the separate job. You do not consider one CV for
Copy,
every
paste,
job.
tuck.
So what I say is, an employer have only 5 to 7 seconds to look at your CV, because he have pile up CVs and he just see. So what is you bringing on the first page of your series,
What
and
is it?
how relevant it is? That relevant is that if job about anything, so are you putting the relevant skills over there, your relevant experience over there? So that's very important. So if first impression, the last impression, as we always say. So first impression, if I look at the CV, so I say it's formatting, it's good, it's very neat and clean, no picture. Remember, picture is always an awkward thing on the CV as well, because once we will call interview, we will have a face-to-face interview, you will see yourself. So do not put picture on your CV as well. And also mention your LinkedIn profile link on your CV. That is very important. Another thing is that you must put your basic skills, your experience, your relevant experience. You say that I have an experience of a media, I'm an anchor person, so this job is about a media, so I have a relevant experience. So once the employer see on your first paragraph that you are relevant, unfortunately we put irrelevant things, we put education and this. I give you my personal example. I applied in a job, so I only mentioned my masters and my MPhil, and the lady was there who said, why did you mention metric and inter? I said, I think it's not relevant. She said, why? Because I think if I'm mentioning my masters and MPhil, it automatically means that I have done masters, metric and inter. So I don't think so. It's not need that. So put on your last degree and your grades. That's very important.
So you didn't do well in metric or FSC? What was the reason behind it? I think, was that the reason?
No, it's not like I'm just saving the time of the employer to read my CV.
I mean,
So
that's
I'm
great,
putting
but-
only thing.
Okay. Now, let's do it otherwise. So, for example, now my CV has been selected. I got a call. Hey, Sir Shahzad, please be here for the interview. So I come in. Hello, assalamu alaikum, Sir Adnan. Sir, how are you? So over here in Pakistan, within our society, we have this habit of kind of cheering the other person up, right? Do you think that extra cheering that other person can actually be very negative for you? Do you
Yes.
think that we really need to act
Yes.
very sober?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum ji. For
Yes.
example, if you're conducting my interview, how would you do it? I'm interviewing for a job, okay? So let's go. Let's do it for our people who are out there.
So my first question, the job first question, introduce yourself. So how would you introduce yourself?
All right, all you need to do is just Google Vijay Shahzad.
That's very important. That's very important. So our students and the job applicants do a one mistake about the introduction of yourself. They start introducing that my name is this and I have these
Thank God I
hobbies and
didn't
I have
do
my
that.
interests and that's. So the employer is only interested in one thing: how you are relevant with this job and how you can handle your self in this in our job environment, and what are your special skills. So you have to explain your skills, the relevance with job in introduction yourself. And then you come up with your last experience. You said this, my name is Mohammad Adnan, I have done MPhil in business economics and I have been teaching in Namal, and so my previous experience was this and that's the
क्या पैकेज लेंगे आप आए उस पे बात करते हैं. I think that's the only thing.
I think is it a good question to ask about your salary in the interview, because I was sitting with the HR person and he said that a lot of people, the first question they ask is what is my salary package, and it's not a good question because the impressive question is that what will be my growth, and in 5 years where will I be if I get this job. So this question actually gives the impression to the employer that he is thinking or she is thinking about her self growth, not about her salary. So what is your opinion on that?
My opinion is a little different from here. If I've conducted many interviews as well, and I have been appeared in many interviews, so my perspective is different. I say, you just give me this job and take me on board for 1 month, and after 1 month you decide what I deserve for this position.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful.
So I will show
Well,
my work, and my work will decide my salary.
No, I mean, that's great. Thank you for saying that. But a lot of organizations I've seen over here, they certainly have no interest in the kind of work you put in.
True.
I think what they do is they take advantage of these words. I mean, it's just an opinion, and I'm differing on this one. And it's because that you certainly need to, kind of have that red line in between, where you need to kind of tell them in the first place that this is what I require if you want my services to be over here. Obviously in a very softer tone. Eventually when you're being selected and all of those terms are being decided, I think that's the time when you really need to be loud and clear rather than, giving the ball in their court. I think it's best that you decide it there and then, because later on, I think it's just a hassle. It depends. So for example, if you're working in a multinational, that's different. Where you said that the question of, how much will I grow is something very different. But if you go to an organization where even the T-boy is not wearing, something very decent, God forbid, so you can realize, what the conditions of the employees must be over there, and all of these things needs to be sorted in time. Do you agree to this?
Yeah, you are right in the other sense, and if I say that you will decide on my salary based on my performance, and other thing I can put on this, that you can give me the pre-decided salary for this position as well. So I'm comfortable. I hope you have decided a good package for this position, and I will be comfortable with that. But rest, I will show up my work, and that will decide my increments and promotions.
Okay, that's fine. Agreed. Now, there's another point, and I think that this is a skill. So what we do is over here that, just because we're in dire need of a job and we need money to survive, and we have all that education which supports us, what we do is that whatever we require, that's something which we're going to share them. I think what I'm going to tell people is, every time you go to an employer, please make sure that you kind of, whatever figure you have in your mind, increase it by at least 40% and then share it with them.
So what if they say, okay, go, we can't afford you.
No, they will eventually come down to what you actually had in your mind.
Oh,
I think that's what,
that's
ji, hum itna nahi de sakte, and they will come back to the figure you've decided, because I'm going to
it's
share.
Just like a shopping mall, you have that bargaining. The shopkeeper always put 20 to 30% extra. You know that there's some my sincere apologies with the ladies.
Because there's one more thing which I remember, and that is that so there was this doctor who went for an interview, and when he went for an interview in a hospital, so the hospital guys, all the doctors who were interviewing them were like, okay, you're being selected, and so the other gentleman who was looking for a job goes like, so what are you going to give me? So he was like, we're going to give you 1 car and 2 car and 3. So he was like, sir, are you joking? So the other gentleman actually comes back and says, no, we thought that you were joking with us too as well. So, that's something,
Right.
always be realistic. I think that's something which is very important. You know your skill base. Confidence is that one thing which you can wear at the best. Please make sure that you always do that. Thank you very much, Adnan bhai, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation.
Thank you so much.
And it was our humble initiative to kind of prepare our future generations for what to kind of look for, and always make sure that whatever kind of gets your interest, I think that's something which is very suitable for you. I mean, ever since, Alhamdulillah, I've been blessed, and I'm going to thank Allah Almighty that I always wanted to work for television. So every time I get a job on television, I give it my 100%. God forbid if it's something which does not interest me at all, I think it's not going to be any point for me to kind of go out there and work. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're heading out towards a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. And before the starting of the show, we were talking about it's Diabetes Day, and it's very important to have a conversation of diabetes because nowadays a lot of young kids are getting this disease, right? And especially there was this perception that over 40 people used to get diabetes because we were talking with the doctor Saab before the show, and he mentioned that because of the overconsumption of the wheat, it is contributing towards that. But in order to have a more, insight into it and a more enlightening conversation on that, we're going to have that, but we also have a package which is prepared by our team, so we're going to look at that and understand what exactly diabetes is.
Is a chronic disease that occurs either when the pancreas does not produce enough insulin or when the body cannot effectively use the insulin it produces. World Diabetes Day is commemorated every year on November the 14th, which provides an opportunity to raise awareness about diabetes as a global public health issue and what needs to be done collectively and individually for better prevention, diagnosis, and management of the disease. This year's theme, Access to Diabetes Education, underpins the larger multi-year theme of access to care. World Health Organization globally and ministries of health of various countries locally will highlight not only the challenges but more importantly the solutions to scaling up access to diabetes medicines and care. World Diabetes Day activities will cover issues ranging from championing the priorities of people living with diabetes in advocacy to the Global Diabetes Compact, which drives efforts globally to reduce the risk of diabetes and ensure access to treatment and care. Lifestyle measures have been shown to be effective in preventing or delaying the onset of diabetes. To help prevent diabetes and its complications, people should achieve and maintain a healthy body weight, remain physically active, doing at least 30 minutes of regular moderate intensity activity on most days, and more activity is required for weight control as well as eating a healthy diet, avoiding sugar and saturated fats, and avoiding tobacco are also helpful in controlling diabetes. Diabetes represents a serious danger to human health throughout the world, including Pakistan. World Diabetes Day activities can act as a harbinger of more awareness amongst humanity the world over. Raza Khan, PTV World.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raza Khan, for giving us such a comprehensive report on World Diabetes Day as well. And ladies and gentlemen, so today our focus and emphasis will be on educating the people around, so that we can tell them about diabetes, so that we can make them aware about, how you really need to go about it, what modern changes really will need to be made within your lifestyles. Then the caregivers, we need to educate them as well. So without any further ado, we're very lucky that we've been joined with Dr. Abdul Hafiz Saab over here inside the studios. Hello sir, assalamu alaikum, good morning, how are you?
Walaikum salam. I am fine, alhamdulillah.
Sir, thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. And since this year around, sir, the theme is education to protect tomorrow. So let's get started. Because earlier we were speaking about insulin deficit. Please explain it to us. How does this phenomena work?
Actually, sir, I want to explain you that God has given us pancreas
Yes, sir.
to produce the insulin. But God has given us pancreas in the size that determined by the body weight.
Okay.
Supposed to be my weight is 80. It is an average weight of 80 for some certain of the heights. Our pancreas is for this 80 kg weight.
Okay.
Supposed to be if you are 100 kg now. So this 20 kg weight is increased and it is loading on the pancreas to produce more insulin.
True.
And it's constantly going on, so pancreas will fatigue and it will produce the insulin up to its maximum of 80 kg. So deficit of the insulin will occur and it will produce the diabetes. Basically, what is diabetes? I want to explain that it is the decrease in the production of the insulin or response of the insulin when you are eating some food which is having a high carbohydrate is decreased. So our metabolism will disturb and the glucose level will kept as a high level, what is called hyperglycemia, and this is what we are saying simply the diabetes.
All right.
Right. So, Dr. Saab, from what I understand is that the weight loss and diabetes are closely linked, and type 2 mostly revolves around our lifestyle, but type 1 is different, right? So, please explain us what is type 1 diabetes and what is type 2 diabetes.
A question arises that why some people has diabetes and some other has no diabetes, even they are fatty and obese.
Right.
So I mean there is some genetics behind it.
Okay.
And genetically, for example, if the parents has the diabetes, the children has a more chance of the later on they will develop the diabetes. Your question is regarding type 1. Type 1 in this condition, the pancreas is unable to produce the insulin, independent of your weight or whatever it is. It is some congenital abnormality in which the pancreas, in which the cells which are producing the hormone, they are deficit.
All right.
So that's the baby will develop the diabetes in the earlier age.
So it does not have to do anything with you being fatty or obese, so there's no problem.
This
with
is
that.
another question. There is diabetes type 2 in which we are considering the obesity, your lack of exercises, you are smoker and all other habits which can predispose you to develop the diabetes.
All right. And what are the early symptoms of you might be getting diabetes as well? Because they say that, there's this range, so if you are within that range, that's a safe range. And then there's a range where they say that, okay, you might be going towards diabetes as well. So how do we define that?
Basically, it is we can say it that it is a silent killer in which the patient is not knowing that he has diabetes.
Okay.
But what he will present to us that he has more urination.
Okay.
I mean the frequency of micturition in the day and the night will increase. Also there is polyphagia. I mean he is eating more.
Okay.
But because he is losing the sugar in the urine, so his weight is decreasing.
Okay.
So what we can say is a polyuria, is a polydipsia. Polydipsia is a condition in which a patient is drinking more water because he is losing water and is drinking water. So polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, eating more, drinking more and passing urine more.
Yeah.
So this is the
Symptoms.
These are the symptoms
So
of the
eating
patient.
more and losing weight,
Yes.
and then drinking a lot of water, and then
Yes,
passing a lot
but
of
is still
urine.
dehydrated.
All right. And so these are the early symptoms of you might be
Yes.
having diabetes as well.
Yes.
Any other illness?
At any
fatigue?
stage, the patient can present to us, and they will say, "I am going for washroom 3-4 times in the night." The young man should not go.
Exactly.
So, and also he is dehydrated, drinking more water, and he says, "I am losing the weight, but I am eating more."
Yeah.
So these are the early symptoms which the patient they will come and will tell
And we
us.
really need to be careful about that. And in addition to that, God forbid, if you have diabetes, I've heard people, Haja, they, even within my own family, so they're like, we have injected insulin, so now we can eat whatever we want. So we can eat all the sweet we want, we can eat all sorts of carbohydrates. What is that phenomena?
This is actually a false impression given to the public that you take some insulin or take more dose of the insulin and eat whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, it is not the correct way. You have to maintain your sugar level in the body. And you are getting a booster dose of insulin and eating carbohydrate and cakes and pastries, and this is not the way to manage the diabetes.
All right.
It is
And
wrong.
God forbid, if you do not kind of control your diabetes,
Right.
how dangerous can it be for you?
Yes. Basically, I am dealing the complication of the diabetes. I am a foot surgeon, and we have a very rare foot surgeon in our country.
True.
What is going on if you are not controlling the diabetes? Basically, the problem comes in your arteries.
Okay.
It becomes narrows and its wall become thick, and the supply of the blood to the organs and to the periphery is decreasing. For example, if I will say the foot problems, because our feet they are far away from our heart, so circulation is already decreased in the feet. But when there is a diabetes, uncontrolled diabetes for a longer time, our arteries become narrow, and the blood supply to the feet it will decrease, and finally it will develop the gangrene in the peripheral part of our foot.
Dr. Saab, whenever a patient walks into your room and tells you that he got a diabetes, so what advice do you recommend? What food he or she should be eating and avoiding?
Yes, I am working in the TDC, as I told you. We have a system
Right.
in which we are educating the people,
Right.
and we are giving in some drawing as well, and writing what he has to eat, what he has to do exercise, and we have to stop the smoking. We have a clinic as well in our TDC hospital to stop
you
the
need to
smoking.
Shehzad.
No, I am not looking there, but it is general awareness of the public that what are the causes for the diabetes. As I told, it is the most common cause is the obesity, it is smoking,
Right.
it's the lack of exercise.
Yes.
So we have to look into these matters for the diabetes.
And if you're exercising and doing both the other things, eating a lot and then smoking, then.
No, this is
But
actually.
you exercise every day for 1.5 hours,
Yeah,
Yes, but you see,
maintaining that balance somewhere in between.
you have
and
to
not
eat,
taking enough rest. Right.
you have to eat the diet regarding if you are suspected having a diabetes in the family.
Yeah.
So you have to change some lifestyle.
Obviously, and I think that that's something which I would recommend too as well, and for me and my entire families, we have all the apparatuses, and in fact, whenever my father is checking his blood sugar level, I would always give it a try as well. Alhamdulillah, so far it's been normal, and I think that's a precautionary measure which everybody needs to take. I mean, these apparatuses are not so expensive. You can have them at your place. You just one simple night, sit down, check your blood pressure, check your blood sugar levels, and just keep a check on your health, and that's something which everybody can do. Now, sir, talking about how we are so keen to eat parathas, ballon wale, malai, makhan, jam, toast, jelly, and all of that. Do you think that for all of that carbohydrate we consume, that is a big reason for our country to actually have a lot of diabetic patients?
I will say some other words that if you will not eat the wheat,
Yeah,
it's what we are saying atta.
atta, takat.
Yes, so this actually increase your sugar level.
Okay.
If you replace this atta, I believe there will be 2/3 of the patient they will improve for their diabetes.
What do you want us to replace it with?
Huh.
Yes, there is a lot of things. If you eat the brown bread,
Yeah.
Right.
brown bread has less atta as compared to, or I will suggest
ब्रेड खाते सर वो लोग बोलते हैं मम्मी डैडी बच्चे आ गए ब्रेड खाते हैं.
सर वो पुरानी बातें होंगी.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, for all of those kids who have been actually bullying other kids that you're a mummy daddy for eating brown bread, I think Dr. Saab has said the right thing that those times have gone. Please continue.
Yes. In our wheat there is one protein which is actually producing addiction.
Okay.
People, they say if I am not eating,
True.
Yeah, that's true.
if I am not eating the roti, chapati,
Right.
I haven't eaten still.
Exactly.
That's true.
So what to do is how we will stop this addiction.
True.
So I am suggesting to my patients, if you are addicted to eat the wheat, then you mix the brawn, 4
Mix it,
4 kg of what is called in our language jaw,
Joe. Yeah.
Right.
और 4 किलो जो है वो आप गंदम ले लें,
Right.
and get it in grinding in the machine.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so make this atta
Right.
and make the paratha or whatever you want, at least to some extent your pure atta is decreased to 50%.
Wow.
Okay.
So it will give you roughage, it will give you to some extent to control your sugar level.
Exactly. That's
And
wonderful.
what about the dairy products? Do they have the enough sugar level, blood sugar level? in
No, sugar supposed to be, if I will say, the butter
it? Right.
and what we are eating, this
Desi
ghee, desi ghee.
Ah.
huh? So it has no sugar or very minimum sugar,
Yeah.
Right.
but what it produces, it will give you more cholesterol.
True.
Okay.
It will give you more fat. This fat will increase your weight.
True.
And once the weight is increasing, again
The pancreas
we have
power.
inside our body there is one machine, what is called this, what is a circuit in which if there is a deficit of the glucose, we will brought it from the carbohydrate, from the fat, from the protein.
Right.
So don't think that only the eating of carbohydrate is the problem, but it is your weight.
And sir, very quickly, one last thing, and that is that for all of those people who are suffering from diabetes, obviously they have to make these moderate changes to their lifestyle. But very quickly, can they eat something sweet if they feel like it? Sometimes, or do you think that there is a recommended way of doing it?
There is a lot of sweetener also we are having nowadays
उसका लेकिन
available in the
चस्का वो
market, but you see, if you have a good control of the diabetes,
Yep.
you can eat one small apple
Okay, apple.
at one time.
Yep.
Another time you can eat one small banana,
Okay.
pears, and many things you
So
can
no
eat
cakes,
to
no
some
pastries,
extent.
no donuts.
So fruits, seasonal fruits are.
Dry fruits are very good for the
All right.
diabetes.
But thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. And for people who are out there, ladies and gentlemen, 4 kg of brawn and then 4 kg of wheat. Mix it up and then have it. And inshallah, in days to come, you will actually decrease your weight and you won't certainly be getting diabetes as well. And if you are diabetic already, make sure an apple a day will keep the doctor away. So thank you very much for being with us. Please write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of,
Well, this morning.
on Twitter,
Well, this morning.
on Daily Motion and YouTube.
Well, this morning.
And the fabulous repeat is going to be at
5 past 10.
Yes, till the next time, look after yourselves. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Have a great day.